All right, well, welcome back to the visual only pre-show, guys, and happy Thanksgiving, belated.
Mm-hmm. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was nice. How was yours?
Yeah, ours was fine.
Yeah,
We didn't do
it's
too
just
much.
kind of like another dinner with the people that I spent 90% of this year with. But
True.
it's fine.
I am officially a bridesmaid. Christina texted me and
Ooh,
asked me if I wanted to be a bridesmaid, so I'm excited about that.
congratulations. That's
Thank you.
fun.
But now I'm trying to, like, I already had a goal because we were going to, or we're supposed to be going to Hawaii in September of next year. We've had this trip planned for like 2 years. So I'm like hoping that like September we can like travel there,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll see. And I had already kind of known, I'm like, I want to like be in better shape by the time we go to Hawaii. And now Evan and Christina's wedding is in October, and I like want to be in better shape by then. So I'm like, at least this kind of gives me like something to like genuinely like try to work for rather than just because otherwise I just give up all the time. I'm just like, I just don't feel like it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, Thanksgiving's I'm not a fan of Thanksgiving to begin with. So if I'm being honest, like I don't really care this year that we couldn't really do a whole lot. Honestly, it was kind of more ideal. I didn't have to leave my house. I didn't have to drive 6 hours to go see family.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like nice and chill.
Good.
I was fine with that.
Used to not like Thanksgiving food at all, especially when I ate meat. I was like, turkey is literally the most disgusting thing. So I don't know why everybody is freaking out over this thing that is like dry and flavorless. So once I became vegetarian, I was like, thank God I don't have to deal with the turkey and pretend to like it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my sister and I always just do a vegetarian stuffing and vegetarian gravy, and then we just have like mashed potatoes, corn, rolls. It's pretty much just like a starch fest, which starch is my favorite food.
We
food
love
group.
that.
So I've grown to love Thanksgiving. I love comfort food. And I feel like Thanksgiving full is a different type of full. Like you
Mm-hmm.
just feel so nice and cozy and ready for bed. And yeah, I don't know. It was just the four of us. It's just kind of weird because like my grandparents that we used to go see in Pittsburgh have both passed away. So it's just kind of like a weird time. Like that tradition is kind of over and
Mm-hmm.
that like period of time is done, which is kind of sad. But we had fun last night, just like reminiscing and talking about memories and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I miss Pittsburgh. I love going there this time of year because it's just like nostalgic, and I love Pittsburgh so much. This movie that we're talking about today, Happiest Season, was filmed partially in Pittsburgh. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, I think that's where it like started off. So
Hmm.
good old Pitt.
That's cool.
It's always sad when we don't make it up there, but it's just
Yeah.
kind of like a weird time in our lives where it's like, what is the new tradition gonna
Mm-hmm.
look like? So
Yeah. Especially because this is the first year without both of them around, right? Like this
right,
holiday season.
yeah. Yeah, so it's just kind of weird and different and hard because, I wish that we could like still go and just see the family that we have there, but it's really just my aunt who's Dan's mom who lives there, and then my other aunt Susan who might be moving. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, but it's just like a weird in between stage, I think.
You know what? One fun thing though, I am really liking this book for book club, and
Me
like
too.
I'm really liking, and I like Dan's idea of doing like an exchange. I would have zero idea what to get anyone. I would hope I get you. It's like that would be cute.
I know, I'm really excited for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really love this book. I'm like super excited every time I find time to read it because it's so
Hmm.
good. And I'm
Yeah.
excited for my book too.
I can't wait for your book. I am so excited because it's one that I've like wanted to read regardless of book club. So I can't wait.
Yeah,
I'm very
good.
excited. I have zero idea what I'm gonna do for mine now. I'm like having a crisis, but I'm like, whatever, that's a long time off.
Remember, I was having a crisis though early on too.
You were, yeah.
And now, like, people seem to be excited about this one. So,
This one author that I have bought, I own almost all of her books except for like a few standalones of hers. And one, it's the last book in a series that's her rights are sold. They're like traditionally published and they're sold right now to make a TV show, but they've been sitting stagnant. And the people who own the rights have not wanted to reprint any copies of them right now, which I don't get that. I'm like, why would you not want to make more money? Anyways, this last book in the series is like impossible to find. Like people sell it for like $100 on eBay. It's ridiculous. And the Barnes and Noble in Appleton has like 2 copies, but they won't deliver. Like they will only do in-store pickup. And I'm like highly considering driving to Appleton to get it. But I'm like, that's ridiculous. That is an hour and a half for
it's
one
not that
book.
bad. I would do it.
But I don't know. I'm like, it could be kind of fun, like a little road trip, but also I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. So
I would totally do that. That sounds nice. Just like get out of the house and drive there.
Yeah, I could use like a vacation day, I guess. To do it.
Yeah, so. I say do it. Go for it. Life is short. All right, should we get started here?
Sure, let me pull up my garage band. I'm excited to talk about this movie.
Me too. Okay, recording in 3, 2, 1. Buckle up.
Because it's going to be a long ride.
It's going to be a wild ride.
No one cares, but we're going to tell you anyways.
This is Popcorn Chats.
We both just start dead silent.
That's a way to start out an episode. Whose turn is it to intro?
I think it's mine because you did cowbells. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Popcorn Chats. I'm Katie.
And I'm McKay.
And this week we are talking about the new holiday movie, Happiest Season, starring Kristen Stewart and Mackenzie Davis, directed by Clea Duvall. Yeah, happy late Thanksgiving if you're streaming this on Spotify or some other audio-based platform. You can catch our visual-only pre-show exclusively on our YouTube channel. Yeah, you're really missing out if you're not tuning into the YouTube episode because Michaela has a cute little Star Wars Christmas sweater on. I don't know. How are you? Catch up? Should we catch up or is that just over?
I mean, I'm doing same old, same old. I'm just trying to do my best.
You need a shirt that says same old, same old.
Same old. I do say that all the time. You know, it's just how it is, guys.
Or when you're really upset, you're like, same old, or same old fucking old.
That should be when we make merch. I'll make that shirt. Yeah, you know, guys, we're just doing our best here. Once again, I don't really do much. I sit on TikTok, I paint, and I read books. I mean, granted, it was Thanksgiving, so I switched that up a bit. I did some decorating. Katie, actually, do you want to see my cute little village that I set up on my TV?
I love
have a little tree over there. So I painted all of those pieces over the years.
Wow.
So I finally brought some downstairs. And then I have a little tree over in the corner there. It's actually a princess tree. It has like princess ornaments to go with it and like a princess base. But I just didn't put up any of the ornaments and I just turned the tree skirt around on it. So it just looks like a iridescent purple tree and it's really cute.
That is cute. I love Christmas decorations.
I'm trying to make my space like feel just a little more homey and cozy heading into the winter months and trying to keep my headspace in an all right place. So.
Totally. Yeah.
How about your... Oh, and I got a that like iced coffee maker from TikTok. I don't know if you've seen that around.
I was going to ask, is that chocolate milk or coffee?
Coffee, and my parents got it for me for my birthday, and it is awesome.
Cute.
Like,
wait,
it's really good.
It's a Mr. Coffee. Does it have like an espresso part, or what's the deal?
No, so this is coffee, which like I am kind of bummed, but obviously I feel like if I want an espresso, I need to get like an espresso maker, and those are just expensive, and I'm not about that life right now. So it is coffee, but I got the Starbucks cinnamon dolce coffee grounds and made it with that, and then with vanilla oat milk and some sweet creamer, and it's delicious. It's very good. Again, just the small things, the small victories in life, everyone.
Yeah, my mom recently bought like Jingle Bell coffee. I don't know, but it's good. It's like peppermint caramel mocha something. So
how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, you know, just kind of in a slump, but what can you do? How am I doing? That's a real question. I'm actually probably going to start working at retail store. I'm not getting a real job, so it's got to probably go back to part-time work, which is just depressing because I have a degree. But, you know, we knew that this was a possibility going into the field that I wanted to go into.
Well, and let alone during a pandemic, too. Like, you are not the only person who's graduated and is without a job.
Right.
Or, like, having to go into a retail environment. I was talking with my parents. I'm like, actually, I'm kind of glad that none of the jobs that I applied for panned out because they were all out of state and they were all event planning jobs. So if I would have gotten one of those, I would have for sure been unemployed.
True.
And then living somewhere with no way of making money. So I'm like, actually, it's kind of a blessing in disguise. But if I would have gotten one of those, I would have been screwed.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're not the only one in the boat, but like I totally get that it sucks. Like it's not how you thought your life was going to look after graduation.
Yeah, well, it was always just kind of like my biggest fear. Like, what if I graduate and just like, I just kind of feel like all the people who are like, what are you going to do with that? You know, when I told them like, oh, I'm studying English and creative writing and cinema, all those people are kind of like winning right now when I kind of wanted to be like, haha, screw you. See, I'm doing whatever, but it's not how it worked out. And I know I'll get there someday, but it's just kind of like hard when you're in the moment and just feeling defeated and mediocre. And like, you know, you are one of hundreds of thousands of people trying to make it in this industry. So it's just like, oh yeah, that reality just hits hard, even though you're preparing for it.
I think it's just hard, you know, like, I mean, no one could have predicted a fucking pandemic to hit, you know, especially for you. And I think so many people our age, it's such a time when we're all graduating and finishing school and trying to move out, but then you have like loans and debt. And it's just, it's weird, but because you know what? This is temporary. It's temporary until this all passes and we can get on with everything.
There is no new YouTube video this week, but I'm putting my energy towards TikTok this week instead. There will be, I think we'll continue with YouTube, but I'm not sure if we'll continue with like the weekly schedule.
It might just be more when we have stuff to make, you know, we'll do it. We don't want to force the YouTube thing when right now we don't really, that's not like our top priority out of everything.
We just want to prevent burnout, and I think the 15 of you that consistently watch our YouTube videos will understand. Anyways, let's get into this goddamn movie because it's a good one, y'all.
Yeah, Katie, just first off, I know we normally start with standout scenes, standouts are, but just like surface level, did you like this movie? Did you enjoy it? You know, what were kind of like your overarching emotions towards it?
Well, I was super excited for this. Mainly because I love Dan Levy and I love all the actors and actresses in this film, but I'm coming off of Schitt's Creek and I was very excited to see him in this, and also just to see a holiday movie where two women are in love with each other. I love that and was super excited to see that and see how that played out on screen, and I enjoyed it. It was I thought it was lovely and hilarious and heartbreaking at times. It was a good Christmas movie.
It definitely put me in like the holiday mood. You know? I'm fully like ready for Christmas time now. I really liked it. I honestly didn't even know that this movie existed. If it wasn't for Katie saying like that she wanted to do it for the podcast, I don't know if I would have realized that it was coming out. I didn't know anything about it, and up until like the day before it came out, I hadn't even watched the trailer. Like I only knew that Dan Levy was in it, but that was the only thing, and I don't really even know him. I don't watch Schitt's Creek. I just knew that Katie was really excited about it. But then I looked at the trailer and I was like, this looks really good. And it's packed with people. I'm like, how was this not made a bigger deal? I don't know. I don't remember seeing a lot online about it when it has like a pretty big ensemble cast. I was kind of surprised by that, but I genuinely really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was making me laugh quite a bit, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. And it takes, not that it takes a lot, you know, to like make me laugh out loud. But you know how when you're watching a movie, it's more like, Like, you just make that small little, like, that's funny. But I was, like, genuinely laughing at certain moments. So.
Yeah. I think that's interesting what you said about how you didn't see a whole lot about it, because I saw a lot about it. So I think that definitely shows the algorithm. Yeah. I'm on the gayer side of the internet, I think. Which is great. So I watched this with my mom and dad, and they were both cackling and shedding tears at, different moments in the film. So it is hilarious. I think it's the perfect holiday movie and reminiscent of other rom-com holiday classics, or just holiday classics in general, like Family Vacation and Home Alone. There's like a lot of slapstick humor, but funny slapstick and just funny situations. I think Kristen Stewart is hilarious.
I want to talk about Kristen Stewart later because I was like enthralled by her.
Yeah. Yeah, she's great.
I want to get into that. Should we do standout star, standout scene?
Sure. Yeah.
What was your standout scene?
Dan Levy's speech towards the end about coming out definitely was one of the most emotional parts of the film for me. It rings true to a lot of different people, and just, everybody's coming out story is different. But this week I've been talking to some lesbians and gays and members of the gay community and how they felt about this film, and that was the scene that everybody kind of brought up, because there was a range of reactions to this film, but everybody kind of agreed that like that moment where he talks about coming out just really resonated with people. So trying to think of like a funny moment that stood out to me, because there were some very hilarious. When she's in the closet and the mom comes upon her when Kristen Stewart's character is trying to sneak up to Harper's bedroom to like spend the night. She's like in the closet and like, oh, I must have sleptwalked in here. That was hilarious. So
yeah. I agree. My standout scene was that, as well as John and Abby's conversation about coming out. I just think it was a really deep and beautiful moment for this film, and also important too, because, as I think we're going to talk about later, is like pretty much every like LGBT film that we see, there's always a conversation about coming out and like how that happened for each of the people, or we see that happening. So I think it was important that this movie had a moment, to kind of address that, and that, some people have a good experience, some people have a bad experience, but it's all up to that, or it should always be up to that person of how it comes out, which was awful the way that it did in this movie.
Yes.
And then I'll offset that with a light moment, which is small, but it was when Dan Levy's character was on the phone with Abby, and he was taking care of the fish, and he's like scooping them out of the tank, and he's like, so if I wanted to buy one of these, where could I get one?
Yeah.
And I was like, never mind, I'll Google it. It was hilarious. It was funny, because that would be something too that I would do. If someone asked me to look after their pets, I would be like, sure, yeah. Walk the dog, feed the cat, clean the litter box, do all that. I would completely forget about the fish. Yeah. So I would probably also be scooping dead fish out of the tank and having to go and buy a new one.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that moment was so funny. He's great. And I did feel that he was kind of just playing his character from Schitt's Creek, but I was totally fine with that. And I think everybody watching this is more than fine with that. I think he's just one of those actors at this moment in time where it's like, you can just play this character from the beloved thing that you were on in multiple. Because I feel like Rebel Wilson is kind of like that. Like, she had her breakout moment on Pitch Perfect and then kind of played that character multiple times. And it just works for some actors and actresses. So I think he'll break out of that maybe at some point, or just take on a more like writer, director, producer role. But
I also really liked when he was at the party with the ex-boyfriend, and he's like, how much do you bench?
Yeah.
1,000.
That was so funny. Yeah.
It was really funny.
Yeah, my standout star was Jane, Mary Holland's character. I thought she was hilarious, and I also felt so bad for her this entire time, and kind of resonated with her as being like the family peacekeeper and just trying to like please everyone. Like I could tell that holiday gatherings meant a lot to her, and just family gatherings in general, and she just wanted it to go off without a hitch. and I could relate to that, and I just felt horrible for her with the painting situation at the end. Like, that genuinely brought me to tears. Like, I think the most out of anything in the movie, which is silly, but I was like, that just makes me want to cry, and I started breaking down for Jane. And I just love how she got her book deal at the end. I don't know. I loved Jane. I loved that character.
Jane was mine as well. She was my favorite of the sisters by far.
Oh, yeah.
She was just endearing, and like you said, you can just tell that she just wanted everyone to be together and get along and have a happy, smooth Christmas, being the peacekeeper of the family. And all of them just really push her to the side over and over again, and I was just like, Jane, you deserve way better than this. You deserve way better than your whole family. Like, your dad using you to just fix things, your mom ragging on you, and your two sisters like constantly kind of leaving you out of everything. I was just like, Jane, you're special and I love you. And then also I did love at dinner when she was constantly talking about her fantasy book that she was making. I want to read that book, Jane. I would read it. And I was so happy that by the end she did get a book deal and had like a little book reading. I was like, justice for Jane this whole movie. Yes. And then we got it at the end. And I just like that actress a lot. I think she played the character really well. I don't know. Jane. I mean, John too. Every moment that he was in was incredible. But he definitely had a smaller role compared to the other people. So I couldn't put him as like my standout star. I didn't feel justified over Jane. But I did really like him a lot.
But yeah, that painting was gorgeous. And the person opening it was like, what the fuck is this? It's like, it's a gorgeous painting. I'm pretty sure anybody would be honored to receive that for a gift. I don't know. I just really felt for Jane and like was really put off by how rude and awful the family was to her. But I don't know. I think it was like a Hollywood version. And I guess I don't want to speak to people's experience. There could be siblings who are genuinely treated like this, which is horrible and I don't even want to think about. You know, there can be the sibling that is cast aside or just kind of not considered or the brunt of every joke or whatever, and there's not always like storylines that include that character. And I think Mary Holland did a good job. She also co-wrote this film with Clea Duvall, which is impressive. So, and then one like side note on standout star, I do just have to say Aubrey Plaza really did something to me. Like, Kristen Stewart, hot. Mackenzie Davis is a cutie, but like
Aubrey Plaza,
get the hell out. You know that TikTok that's like, for you, I would let you hit it for free. For you, I would let you hit it for free.
I like Mackenzie Davis a lot. I've seen her in other movies and I always enjoy her. However, in this, I wish... Could you have imagined if it was Aubrey Plaza and Kristen Bell playing girlfriends and then Mackenzie Davis Stewart was like the ex-girlfriend? Like, I just think that would be really doing something for everyone. Like, who wouldn't want to watch that?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that Kristen and Aubrey would run off together, their characters. I'm not gonna lie. Or not run off together, because I don't think that Harper should be demonized for like not being ready to come out. But she did kind of bother me. Her behavior as a result of not being ready to come out. This could be controversial, and if I'm wrong, feel free to point me out and cancel me, but I don't think that like her behavior is okay. Like, she does not treat Abby well. There's no good reason to treat somebody like that.
And then I don't think it was fair that then after she came out, then all of a sudden she was like, Abby, I did it. Like, that should that should excuse everything. I'm like, that's good, because obviously now that secret is out to the people around you and you don't have to deal with that in between you. But again, like, I don't think that then that can erase everything that she's done to Abby thus far, like, from what we've seen up to that part. What we've seen up to that point.
And even if Harper was out, like, her behavior was not great. Just like leaving Abby for her high school friends and ex-boyfriend. I thought that Kristen Stewart and Aubrey Plaza's chemistry was great, and just their dynamic on screen worked so well. Going back to how I think Kristen Stewart is hilarious, I think her comedic tone is very similar to that of Aubrey Plaza, but I don't think people have always considered that, just because Kristen Stewart has unfortunately been put into this Twilight box that she's probably going to be in for all her life. Unfortunately, that's just, what happens when you're in a saga like that. But I hadn't really considered that either, how they would be on screen, but it's a pairing made in heaven. I would love to see them
like a buddy movie between them. Even
I would love to see that. I would love to see them be in other things together, because I couldn't get enough of scenes with the two of them.
And Kristen Stewart's hair in this, I was like, I want platinum blonde hair. No, I don't. But that would not fit for me. But she made me want it. I loved her hair. I loved the length of it, the like flip over. She's just so hot. I like had such a crush on Kristen Stewart watching this movie this whole time. Anytime she was on the screen, I was just like staring at her. I just want to say I love the opening credits with the little cartoon scenes. I thought that was really cute. I like when Christmas movies open with something cutesy like that. And I like that they put them at the beginning, because with many streaming shows and movies now, cutting them out. I had just read this article that Rian Johnson, the director of The Last Jedi, did of how on streaming now, like Netflix and Hulu automatically pop up like things you might like next and pretty much cut out all of the credits, and how like disrespectful that is to everyone involved in the film. And that I personally really like credits. I agreed with everything Rian Johnson said about it being like a time to decompress from the movie and kind of like absorb what you've taken in, rather than all of a sudden having like more content shoved in your face.
Right.
So I liked that they took the time at the beginning to at least do some credits, but like in a fun way, that you weren't just sitting there and seeing a screen scroll before getting into any of the story.
One thing that I was kind of worried about going into watching this movie was the film being too serious and too heavy-handed with the coming out of it all, and because I think there's like a time and place for films like that, and while this obviously is like an important topic to cover, I think this community, I can't speak for the whole community, but for myself, I am starved for just like a normal movie where the characters like happen to be gay. And I think a couple people are feeling that as well. And while this is a coming out movie that covers the topic of like the difficulties of coming out, it's still fun and lighthearted and hilarious that there's antics happening right off the bat. Like Kristen Stewart is falling off the roof, which is like a Christmas movie trope for some reason. Like I feel like every Christmas movie somebody is falling off the roof, and it gets me every time. It's hilarious.
The BDSM reindeer at the start too.
Yeah, oh my god, that was so funny. Get back inside.
Like a little whip.
Yeah. And then I was also worried about their relationship being over-sexualized, because most Christmas movies, when there's romance involved, it's very like PG. And again, I think there's like a time and place for like very sexy, LGBTQ relationships, and that's just not what I was looking for in this film. Like I wanted to sit down and watch it with my family, and again, like it wasn't. It was just like romantic and just normal, like a normal relationship being represented on screen. So both those worries were quickly put to rest.
Yeah, I liked that it didn't feel so heavy. I mean, obviously, towards the end there was like a brief, maybe like 20 minutes or so, where it's pretty serious, decently heavy and emotional. But I liked that they kept it a little more lighthearted and just a little easy and breezy, on the relationship, because like you said, I don't know why it is that pretty much every like LGBTQ movie that I can think of is like pretty heavy or has an unhappy ending, or like books too, like I'm talking books too, that I think that there's so much like sadness in those stories that I'm here for, don't get me wrong. However, I feel like those overwhelm, like they're the majority of those stories that like are being made in film and book. That it was nice to have something that it still had that heaviness to it, to show like the seriousness of coming out and the importance of that in someone's life, but that it didn't overwhelm the happiness of just like this very normal relationship between two people.
Dan Levy's character, Kristen Stewart's character, Jane's character were like this perfect blend of hilarity, like laugh out loud lines and moments in combination with very like tear-jerking and profound moments that just kind of root rom-coms and what they are. It's people going through real life tumultuous situations. Like going home for Christmas can bring up all sorts of issues, and meeting someone's parents for the first time can be hard for anybody, you know, straight, gay, what have you. It's like funny and tragic and sad at some points. Like that's just what life is. It's not one thing or the other. So I agree with what people are saying, that like we need more movies that are just the plot isn't coming out. Like I agree 100%. I want that too. I don't think it's fair to say that this isn't like a step in the right direction. And this isn't all about coming out, you know, at the end of the day, it's about two women who are in love with each other struggling with something. So I don't want to be like, we need to take what we can get, but like
it's good to acknowledge progress.
Right. And I just feel kind of sad by people who are really poo-pooing on this film, especially people who are part of the community. Because I want to understand, and like I do understand, but I'm also just kind of like, 5 years ago, a gay Christmas movie, a lesbian Christmas movie, I would be like, is that on Pornhub? Or, you know what I mean? Like, it's unheard of. It genuinely is. So for young kids growing up now, because kids can watch this, like it's not inappropriate by any means, which again, like to even just a lot of times lesbian relationships are very sexualized, which is why I'm being like, this is appropriate. This is a family film.
Yeah.
But it is. And, you know, for young kids right now who are seeing this, I mean, it's a game changer. Like if I would have seen this movie when I was young, it would have been huge. So
it's something that would have been out of the realm of possibility, I think 10 years ago. I don't think anyone would have ever been like, oh yeah, let's make that into a movie. I mean, not saying that people didn't want that, or that we didn't need it 10 years ago, but I just think getting it made, I don't know how that would have happened, you know?
Right.
One random lighthearted thing, I hate the line, how bad can it be? It's overused and overdone, find something new. I hate that, but then, like, Kristen Stewart was like, oh, okay, fine, let's go home. How bad can it be? And then I cussed to going home. That was the one cringe moment for me. I'm like, I hate that line. I hate that being like, oh, yeah, we'll see what can happen. No.
Right.
That's me being nitpicky, but I just really hate that line.
Yeah. No, I understand. I think this movie is packed with cliches, obviously. But again, it's like, I'm okay with that in this case because it's a holiday movie. All holiday movies kind of have the same predictable, silly structure, and people go into it with expectations. And again, to have two women in love with each other at the center of this like cliche, funny family holiday movie, that's huge. And that needs to be acknowledged. It's important and it's a good thing. But yeah, just like people who need to talk running into each other when they're out and about, like, yeah, totally, that happens.
I'm fine with in Christmas movies, and also certain times when people like happen to bump into each other and stuff. I'm like, okay, I get it that when you're like reading a book or watching a movie or watching a TV show, you're like, like how convenient that is. But what do you want? Do you want them to like actually pick up the phone and text each other? And do you want to read that? Do you want to see them just texting on a screen? Or do you want to see them bumping into each other? Like, think about it. Like, which would you rather? They're going for entertainment value.
Right.
Not like full realism, you know? So you gotta give into a cliche every once in a while. They're cliches for a reason. They work for the most part, you know?
Yeah, you gotta take everything with this movie. Like, they're addressing multiple things in this movie, obviously, like the coming out part, but also like family relationships and parental pressures and sibling relationships and all sorts of stuff like that. Anytime a rom-com is addressing stuff like that, it's going to be like a Hollywood stylized, somewhat cliche, not necessarily super accurate, like portrayal of it. And I think you can't go into, this isn't Moonlight. This isn't, Call Me by Your Name. It's similar to other like holiday movies. So hold it to that standard. Don't be overly critical. If you want to be overly critical, go watch those award-winning films, I think.
And I think that's what we try to do here on the podcast, where we like want to critique certain things. We want to have a conversation. But also, Katie and I have said, like, we're not film critics. And we have, I think both of us, because we watch a lot of, like, critically acclaimed films, and we like being a little nitpicky every once in a while. But this is a movie where you just kind of got to turn that off. And I think that's something that Katie and I both are pretty good about doing, of just being like, this is something to sit back and enjoy. It's kind of what we got to do with the Cringe series, too. It's like, these movies are not good, but that doesn't mean that you can't sit back and enjoy them, you know?
Yeah. I think you're better at it than I am. You do really have to take films for what they are. Yeah. I think, like we've talked about before, Adam Sandler movies, I can't do them because I just go into them thinking, I don't know what I'm thinking, but I'm just overly critical of them and calling out everything that bothers me. And I can definitely be overcritical. We were watching Home Alone last night as a family, and his family like comes home after he's been left home alone for so long, and then they're like, hi Kevin, and then they just leave and walk into the kitchen or whatever. And it's just like, I was like, what the hell? Like, who does that? And why is the old man not coming over and telling them that their child was almost murdered by two hoodlums and their house was almost robbed? Instead, he's just waving through the window. Like, but again, it's like, would you really want to see that, Katie? No. That was a long-winded response, but I need to be better about that because nobody's going to want to watch movies with me anymore.
The running orphan joke at the beginning with the mom and Abby, again, it was just funny to me. I get it that it was like a bad to joke about, but it was pretty funny. When she was like, oh, you're one of the lucky ones. When she found out that her parents died at 19, I was like,
Yeah. Oh, like after she was framed for stealing, or they thought she stole something, like they were treating her like a criminal. And she was like, I can't find my brooch. If it happens to find its way back to my dresser, I won't be upset. That character of the mom, first of all, this actress, Mary, something, I forget her last name, but she is a mom in literally everything. I just feel like she's always the mom of like the jerk husband for some reason. But anyways, I think every family has this person within the family that's just like overly critical and stressed. And obviously this is again like a Hollywood portrayal.
And her taking pictures on her iPad was such an old person thing to do. You will never catch someone under the age of like 45 taking a picture with an iPad.
No. I also, going back to his speech towards the end about coming out, when he talked about like once you say the words and you can't take them back, and that like moment, that silent moment before they respond and your heart is racing and like, what are they going to say? How are they going to react? And then how that was reflected when Harper was like, she wasn't lying. I am gay and I'm dating Abby. There was like this silent moment and my heart was like beating so fast for her because you genuinely don't know how these people are going to react, because the parents are these perfectionists holding their daughters to these crazy, outrageous standards. And they made a very homophobic comment early on in the film about, not very homophobic, but it was a homophobic comment about Riley and her lifestyle choice. And so, yeah, you just don't know, like, how any of them are going to react. I knew Jade was an ally. Okay, I knew Jade would be supportive from the start. I appreciated that for people to hear from a queer person what it's like, and then to see what it's like.
Yeah, we knew Jane would be a real one.
I loved how she was like, I don't have a secret, but I'm an ally.
I'm like, Jane, I love you.
I want that painting. I would pay top dollar for that painting.
I would too. Honestly, Jane needs her own spin.
She does.
And also her little comment at dinner, when she was like, I've been working on this book for 10 years. And someone goes like, wow, that's a long time. And she's like, well, it takes a while to build a world. I was like, you're right, Jane. It does take a long time to build a world.
She's so sweet. Girl. I did just want to say, like, with this family and with the parents, you know, right off the bat, they're like enforcing this perfection image onto their daughters, and particularly onto Harper. We kind of get the impression that like Harper is their golden child that they just really are proud of. And this obviously comes off as toxic and like, again, a Hollywood version of, unfortunately, what happens in a lot of families, and why I think it's still hard for people to come out. I often hear people say or just allude to it being easier to come out now because we live in this progressive world, seemingly. But we don't. First of all, there are countries where people still get killed for being gay. And in our own country, members of the LGBTQ community are still being murdered. And in certain parts of the country, it is really hard for people to come out still. And there are still families who aren't accepting. You know, even if you think or you know that your parents would like be supportive and accept you and love you. I think Love Simon talks about this a little bit. Like, he knows that his parents would accept him. Mm-hmm. But when you have to shatter the image of what your parents had in mind for you, because unfortunately that's just our society, is like, oh, they're gonna end up with a heterosexual relationship. When you have to dismantle that image, not just with your parents, but when you're gay, you kind of are coming out for the rest of your life, like, to new people. You know, you're just constantly shattering that heteronormative image that unfortunately most people just have. And so it's not easy. And I think this movie did a good job of covering that. And like, the parents aren't outwardly like homophobic, but they do make that comment. And the majority of people, especially the majority of people that I surround myself with, are like, oh, I'm totally accepting of gay people. But then we'll make comments like that. Like, oh, she looks like a lesbian, or, you know, just making comments like that where it's like, okay, that's homophobic. Like, it's especially people that are our age. Like, most people are like, I'm totally an ally. I'm totally down for, you know, whatever and whoever you are. But then I've definitely heard lots of comments where it's just like, or would you say that around somebody that you knew was gay? I don't think you would. So just like, watch what you say, because somebody might be like, oh, I kind of want to come out to you, but then you just said that. So,
and I think what we've talked about on this podcast before is like, there's almost tiers of like acceptance in society. That, like, we're gay men. Like, when people say, like, oh, yeah, I'm an LGBTQ plus ally, I'm like, okay, so, like, you're cool with gay men, but then, like, you may have, like, a different attitude towards lesbians or someone who's, like, bisexual, or especially, like, transgender people. Yeah. Like, I just think there are people who say, like, oh, yeah, I'm an ally, but there are really, like, almost limits within that allyship for some people that, like Katie said, there are certain people in my life that I agree. I think they say they are, but then they make comments when I'm like, you're kind of going against what we just established here. Like, that doesn't really make sense. You know, like, you can't be okay with one and not be okay with the other, but then say you're like an ally overall. You know, like, you need, and I think just like you said, you're constantly having to like burst that heteronormative bubble that everyone has kind of like been born with, and like how that is just the default pretty much. Like, hetero people never have to deal with coming out because it's just like, that's just what's expected. Yeah. So you never have to, when you're meeting someone, have to like slip it in like, oh yeah, you know, like my girlfriend or like my boyfriend, you know, you never have to, or like feel people out to be like, are they gonna be cool with this when I say this to them, or is their entire attitude gonna change towards me? Like, you just don't really think about that. I think having films like this where it is just more of like seeing them as a normal couple are important, because you need to just like, we just need to be normalizing this more and getting this out in front of people. Like, why is it on Game of Thrones? Like, everyone's like, oh, Jaime and Cersei. Yeah, whatever. Everyone kind of threw that aside pretty quick, that they're twins. And I'm like, okay, we cannot be okay with that. Or like, same with Khal Drogo and Dany. From the beginning, like, people were very quick to then kind of like jump on board with these two, and I'm like, okay, if we are already saying that, like, oh yeah, we're cool with this, be cool with lesbians going home for Christmas, you know?
Right. And I hope that we see the day when coming out like isn't this big of a deal. And I think that's again where people take issue with coming out being the driving force of the majority of these LGBTQ films. Love, Simon, of course, is an important film. This is an important film. It's all about coming out. That's just what the plot is. And if we ever want to get to a point where people don't have to do that anymore, like, I know it sounds crazy, people, but maybe we shouldn't just constantly be making people in this community going through something that can often be really traumatic and anxiety inducing, because we don't really think about that. It's not just one grandiose moment that happens in a lot of films. Hollywood kind of depicts it as like one and done, but it's not. It's a never ending thing because society won't just get over this hump of like, people are just who they are and dating whoever the fuck they want to date. Coming out is like this expectation now, and people can sometimes be like, well, why didn't you tell me? Or why didn't, and it's like, you didn't tell me that you were straight, you just were. It's literally not about anybody except for yourself. So come out however you want. Don't come out, just bring somebody home for the holidays and let other people deal with it, because it's not your responsibility to guide people in comfortably to accepting you. Like, they either do or they don't at this point. It's 2020. And her being outed by her sister, gross. I did not like that.
I want to talk about that because that was my biggest issue, that at the end, first of all, Alison Brie's character is just absolute scum. I found like no redeeming qualities in Sloane whatsoever. The fact that she found out about Abby and Harper and immediately was like, blackmail, fuck you. Yeah. That should not be your first thought that you think about. Like, you suck. And then going upstairs and then like getting ready to out that and then outing her in front of a room full of people. One, it's horrible to she outed her to begin with. Two, it would have been horrible if it was just her family. But three, to out her in front of an entire party. How can you be so just like evil, honestly? I don't see like I don't care if you're like hurting because your husband's cheating on you. And like, I don't care that you're not the golden child. That is no excuse. And then I really don't like that we never once got a conversation between Sloane and Harper where Sloane was like, I'm sorry. I mean, granted, you can't take that back. Like, she can't just say, I'm sorry and expect everything to be over.
She did say sorry, and then Harper was like, it's okay. And I was like, no. It
just goes pretty much unacknowledged, and all of a sudden everything works out. And I don't like that. I don't think that's very healthy to show that, like, that happens. Then it's like, oh, well, but, you know, it worked out in the end, because that could very well not be the case for someone. It should have been shown Sloane taking some accountability for her actions and showing that there are, like, real consequences to that, and there really wasn't any of that. And I didn't like it. I didn't like Sloane whatsoever. I didn't like her to begin with, and I definitely didn't like her after that.
Yeah, I think that behavior is inexcusable, and being outed can really be so traumatic. So I did not appreciate the way that was handled. I think if there's one flaw that I will take away from this movie, I think it's that. However, I did shed a tear when her and her ex-husband like shared a exchange moment at the end. Like, they just shared a glance and like we're watching their children open presents. I was a softie at that moment. Like, I was happy for them and that I knew that they were gonna be good co-parents. But yeah, no, that doesn't excuse obviously what she did, and I think it was poorly handled. A lesbian wrote and directed this movie. This is a story that a lesbian woman wanted to tell and is reflective of her life in a way.
And having Kristen Stewart starring in it, who is a part of the community, I think is great, because as we've been talking about over the last few years, I think like this conversation has more been starting of people playing characters that they probably shouldn't, all the way dating back to Scarlett Johansson playing an anime character from like a Japanese comic book or something. It's like, Scarlett Johansson, what are you doing? Go be a tree if you want to be a tree so bad, honey. I'm sorry. I don't like Scarlett Johansson. And I think I've made that clear on this podcast before.
Yes.
And okay, am I wrong? Is Aubrey Plaza also bi?
I think she is. I think she's alluded to it before. See, okay, this is, again, like a difficult terrain to navigate. I also think Mackenzie Davis is as well, but I can't say for sure. We want to get to a place in society where we're not forcing people out of the closet and being like, you have to be out. But we also want gay people to play gay characters. And I don't know if we can always have it both ways. Personally, I would like to just get to a place where people aren't having to come out anymore. I don't know. It's hard. I guess I don't know what I want.
Like how Katie said, I don't think with this movie you need to, like, when you're auditioning for the role, to like submit your sexuality along with it. You don't need to be like, hey, I'm Aubrey Plaza and I'm whatever, and like it's sliding in that application. You know, I don't think you should have to do that.
Right.
Because that's not fair to that person. But however, on the other hand, it is like these roles should be going to people of the community, and I don't know, like there are not, you know, as many roles like this out there. So I think it's important that they're represented honestly, but at the same time, like you can't force someone to come out if they don't want to. And yeah, I don't know about Mackenzie Davis. I don't think she's really ever said anything. She hasn't really had like high profile relationships, so there's not really like a lot out there. And again, it's like really not really, it's literally no one's business who she dates. But at least like to see Kristen Stewart starring in this, I'm like, go her, because obviously she's like out and she's very supportive and she's never like hid that, at least in recent years. I think it's a good choice to at least have, you know, a character starring in this that you know can probably relate to it a lot more than like a straight person can.
I remember when Kristen Stewart, you know, came out or was outed. I feel like she definitely was like outed in the tabloids or whatever before she officially came out, but I don't know for sure. But I just remember when it was known that Kristen Stewart was a lesbian and like just all the hate she got. And I mean, we were in like middle school, early high school at the time, so people were just ruthless and like dyke and all this stuff. It's just so harmful to assume that people that you're surrounded with are all straight and not struggling and are not going to be affected by these comments. And even if they are all straight, everybody that you've ever known is straight and will not be affected. Still, I just don't say stuff like that. It's crazy to me.
Be nice. Be a nice fucking
person. Be nice.
Yeah. It's really not that hard.
Should we move on to questions?
Okay. Just because this first one, I want to talk about the standout cast. Kind of, and I feel like it's a good flow into what we were just talking about. This is a standout cast. It's an ensemble. I would call it an ensemble cast, honestly. Yeah. Looking back at like classic Christmas movies, a lot of them are ensemble casts. So I want to know, like, do you think it's important to have an ensemble cast for Christmas movies specifically in order to, like, get people to watch them when they're, like, a dime a dozen? You know, there are a lot of Christmas movies, and it's hard to beat the classics because people kind of have what they have and love what they love, that it's kind of hard to introduce new ones. So do you think, like, having a huge cast like this was really important for this film?
I think so. I think there is something, you're onto something here, because Christmas movies are all very similar. You know, it's all about like finding the true meaning of Christmas or family. You know, they all kind of follow the same structure, especially Christmas rom-coms and stuff. There has to be some sort of it factor in new holiday movies that are being made. Yeah, I think that's why a lot of them have star-studded casts, is because that's the it factor that's gonna bring people to watch pretty much the same story be retold, just with different people that are in the spotlight at the current moment in pop culture. In this case, it's great to see commercial studio film with these amazing actors and actresses about, again, two women in love. Like, that's just would have been unheard of 10 years ago. So I didn't really think about that, but I think for sure, because I wouldn't, if you're looking for something with not great or like beloved actors and actresses, that is what Hallmark movies are. Our Lifetime Christmas movies, you know.
I agree with that. I think almost think like Christmas movies are a hard market to break into in a way, because when you think about the classics, like people have their favorites, you know? And people really only watch them for the most part within like a month and a half.
Yeah.
Outside of Christmas time, the holiday season, I don't think many people are like pulling out Christmas movies just to watch randomly. You know, they're really
Right.
like about the mood and like setting that and fitting that. So I think with this, if you want to really like make a punch in it and make it memorable for people, you need to draw their attention in it, and I think you do that by having a big cast, because otherwise I don't think people would really take the time to watch it. I was thinking about this, I'm like, so take out Dan Levy, Kristen Stewart, and like Aubrey Plaza for us too, Katie. I'm like, would we have wanted to watch this as much? I would like to think we would, because it's a new movie and it's a gay Christmas movie. But in all honesty, like, how much would you have really heard of it then without like those big names? I think it's something to consider when you're looking at Christmas movies, and like that the ensemble cast really plays a more important role than maybe in like a drama, you know?
Yeah,
or
definitely.
a comedy movie. And Kristen Stewart, actually, hold on, sorry. Can I just make a comment about Kristen Stewart? So I really have not seen much of her since Twilight. I'm pretty sure the only movie post-Twilight that I saw of hers was Equals with Nicholas Hoult. Have you seen that?
I don't think so.
You don't really need to bother. It was fine. I like both of them. It was not either of their best works. The content
Didn't you
just wasn't
see
there.
Charlie's Angels?
No.
You didn't see the new one? Huh.
So I just like, I hadn't really seen anything of her since Twilight. So I, you know, how Katie said, like, she's kind of in a bit of a Bella Swan bubble. Not that I like keep her there, but I do just like associate her most with Twilight.
Of course.
And seeing her in this, I'm like, she's funny.
She's hilarious.
And her nervous energy, it really like worked in this. She's just like a great actress. And I was pleasantly surprised, and I was like really into it. And also I just think she's so hot, so I was just like, Kristen Stewart, I love you in this. Like, her whole look, her wardrobe, her hair, her makeup, just everything fit her so well. Like the Bella Swan look, I'm like, get out of here with that. But like this look, I was so here for. Her holiday party outfit with the blazer and the unbuttoned shirt and everything, I was like, I'm so here for it. She owns it, and I was here for it.
When she hosted SNL and talked about how Donald Trump tweeted about her a bunch when her and Rob Pattinson broke up, that
get out of here.
Was
I hate him.
The funniest thing ever. And she was hilarious on SNL. I think she's hosted a couple times actually. But yeah, so I was really looking forward to seeing her in a rom-com, because I don't think she's really ever been in one. Yeah, I think her and Rob Pattinson both are incredibly talented and don't get a whole lot of recognition. And they both have the kind of similar sense of humor, just like sarcastic. They're over Hollywood. You can tell like they both just hate being famous and being celebrities, and they love the craft. I think Twilight does kind of like taint them in a way, which is unfortunate. Kristen did a great job in this. What's your ideal holiday plan? Would you rather attend like a big, large party that has like lots of people from your neighborhood and community? Do you prefer an intimate family gathering and gift exchange, drag show at a gay bar, or pet sitting and forgetting about it altogether?
Drag bar. I mean, okay, or like, I don't know, the idea of like a big Christmas party right now, obviously it's like very hard to fathom, but honestly that sounds like a lot of fun to me right now, because I want an excuse to like get dressed up and like be social.
Right.
So like that sounds appealing, but also like a drag bar with like some friends sounds really fun.
Yeah.
I would just say not, as much as I love pets, I would just say not pet sitting, because I like around the holidays to have something feel like really special, and I want things to like feel very holiday-esque and do things for like the purpose of the holidays, where that would just be, you know, like any old time you're pet sitting.
I also love the idea of like a large party. I don't like the large party situation in this where it's just like a fundraising weird like toxic energy, but the idea of getting family and friends together is fun. Or obviously a drag bar would be fun, like on Christmas Eve or something, but I would be sad if I wasn't with my family on Christmas. I think
any day leading up to Christmas I'm cool kind of for whatever, but Christmas Day I'm like very set in our routine of like, I want us to get up, I'll be around the tree, open up presents, eat cinnamon rolls, And we used to go to the movie theater and see a movie every year. Now Wonder Woman is coming out on HBO Max on Christmas.
Oh, nice.
So we'll watch that. I like my Christmas Day, like, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is kind of unrelated, but also did come up in the movie because Daniel Levy, is it Dan or Daniel?
I think it's either.
Okay, well, John's lines about this cracked me up. What do you think about people asking a woman's father permission to marry her? Because he brought that up and he's like, oh, did you ask the one human if you could take ownership of another human or something?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that is like a very old tradition, and I feel like it has kind of died out a bit. But like that did kind of come up. Obviously, Abby never asked, or we never saw her ask. But what do you think about that?
I mean, I'm not opposed to it. For other people, I don't think it should be outlawed by any means. I think
no.
Some people prefer like traditional. For me, I don't. It's not like a must. I don't love the idea of it. I don't even like the idea of like being given away. It's just hard. Like certain traditions are not. If I were to partake in them, it wouldn't be for me. You know, like if I did have my dad give me away, it would be for my dad and not for me.
Agreed.
And that's just kind of like, do I want to do that on my wedding day? Should everything just be for me? Or do I, want to do that for my dad? Because I'm sure he's thought about that since had me, or my mom had me, and he was there. And anyways, and yeah, when he did say that in the film, it made me think about how this is just silly, but there are some people in the LGBTQ gay community that are like against gay marriage becoming legalized because they feel that would force gay people to like commit to this heteronormative structure of like having to get married and like live this nuclear family lifestyle, which is just horrendous. And that just makes me sad that there are people who think that way, because you don't have to do anything, but you should have the option. Obviously participate in traditional things if you want, and don't if you don't want to.
I agree with that, though. The whole idea of giving someone away on the wedding, I have been thinking about that too, that I'm like, I don't really like that, and I don't really want that.
Right.
And again, marriage is very far out of my future, or maybe even in my future. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't like the idea of like being given away.
Right.
That I don't like. But I get what you're saying. Like, it's not for me. Like, if I ended up doing that, it's then for my dad.
Right.
But I don't need someone to ask, he can marry me.
Right.
Like, I would never expect a boyfriend to do that.
Yeah.
If he wanted to tell my family, just being like, hey, I'm going to propose to her. What do you think? Fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do that. But it's not their choice. They're not going to be living with him.
Right.
and legally bound to this man. So.
Well, and no matter what they say, like, you're going to do what you want to do at the end of the day.
Exactly.
It's a little trivial. And, I mean, the whole institution of marriage is rooted in women being property in this, like, transaction. How we treat it now in American society of, like, this big ceremony, love celebration. It didn't used to be like that. So again, it's like, choose how you want to handle it. Like, everybody's weddings are different because everybody is different.
That was kind of an unrelated question, but it was just interesting when it brought that up.
Yeah.
That we've never talked about that really, so I was just curious.
Yeah. What Christmas activity do you look forward to the most?
Baking. I love like the Christmas cookies and decorating that. We make a lot of different treats in my house, and this year we're like trying to space them out because otherwise we end up with like so much at once because everyone has like different favorites. But I just have like very fond memories of that, and honestly just like decorating. Like today my mom was just pulling out all of our totes from our storage room full of Christmas decorations and put them up, and my mom collects nativities, so it's just fun pulling out all of those and looking like, oh, this is the one from the Vatican or from Arizona, and just like where each one is from.
Cool.
And putting them up, and like the little village pieces I showed, like it's fun setting up our little villages.
Yeah.
So I just like doing those little activities that I've done since I was a kid.
Yeah, definitely.
And makes it feel like Christmas.
Yeah. Kind of the same, just like the traditional things that make it nostalgic and remind me of being young with no financial issues. But yeah, I like going to see the lights in Madison. When I was young, it felt like such a long route, like around the lights, but now every time I go, it's like takes 5 minutes and I'm always kind of depressed. I think every like Christmas tradition, it just never lives up to like my memory of it from when I was younger. So in that way, it's always just like I look forward to it and I'm always somewhat disappointed. Which is why like the holidays are kind of this weird mix of like joy and depression for me. I love watching The Grinch too. Like that is a must. And that's the one thing that never gets old.
Did you see
Don't even bring it
that
up.
they're doing a lot?
Don't even bring it up. I can't. That is the straw that broke the camel's back this year, Michaela. And I really just can't even think about it without wanting to throw up.
Okay.
He ruined the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade for me.
It was so tragic. What is the best? Have you ever done a white elephant, first of all?
Yeah.
And what is the best white elephant gift you have ever gotten?
That I've ever gotten.
Or given, if you've given something really cool.
Well, the only like white elephant that I can really remember participating in is Jack's family does it every year, like with his large extended family. And it always has to start with like a letter. It's his mom's side of the family. So their last name is Steiner. So each year it's like a different letter, like S-T-E-I. The one year was like an E. And I gave like a little Eeyore stuffed animal and his like baby cousin got it. It was so cute. And then I received like these t-shirts that I still wear to this day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was like a good time and I felt like I got cool t-shirts. I don't know. That's kind of lame. What about you?
I got a mug. I don't like this bitch anymore that I got it from. But back in college, my job and cab, the campus activities board, we did a white elephant one year for that. And one of the employees there, I lived with her. She was my roommate.
Mm-hmm.
And her and I both knew that we wanted to get each other. We kind of got the gifts for each other. And then we're like, let's go in there and pick each other's gifts. And she got a mug, which I collect mugs if you don't know. And it was something about, it's some quote about procrastination, which was just perfect for a college student. It's perfect for me now, if I'm being honest. And I still have it. I love the mug and it's really cute. But like my go-to gift for them, I always do like a little movie basket with like candy and popcorn and normally like a movie theater gift card or like a $5 gift card to a movie theater or something. Because it's easy.
Yeah.
Everyone pretty much likes candy and everyone pretty much likes movies.
That is a good one. What was your biggest takeaway from the movie?
This is what I would hope, I guess, that people know. Don't ever out someone. That's never okay. I would hope that, like, people would watch that and, like, realize that that's not cool. So I would hope for other people. I already know that that's not okay. So I would hope that maybe someone who doesn't is watching that. I liked seeing a normal couple, and that they weren't, like, toxic in a way. I don't know if that sounds weird, but I think... like, even when they were arguing, they were really respectful of each other, and it just showed, like, they were just a very normal couple.
Right.
And I just really appreciated that. Normally, I'm, like, all here for the drama and the toxic energy, as we know. But I really liked that in this case, it wasn't like that.
Right.
That it was just two people who love each other and overcoming a conflict between the two of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. What was your biggest takeaway?
It was just, for me, like, everybody is on their own path and their own journey. You know, there's no right way to be gay. There's no right way to be bi. There's no right way to be within the gay LGBTQ community. There's no right way to come out. There's no right time to come out. Everybody's story is different. And however, I think we have this common goal of like just everybody having a good experience. I think that's what we're all striving for, hopefully. But yeah, I think if you're not within the community, I would hope that people take away, obviously, like, be accepting of all forms of coming out and all people who are coming out and all people within this community. And if you are in the community, I would hope that this film makes you accept yourself a little bit more and love yourself a little bit more. And also, like, I think sometimes there is some judgment and hate and toxic energy within the community too, where we like hold each other to standards that just are dumb and like shouldn't exist, you know? So that conversation that Abby and John have at the end about like, your experience is wonderful and great, and that's not Harper's experience right now. And if you don't want to be with somebody who's like in that spot, that's great too, and fine and sad. But like, everything that everyone is feeling is valid. I think this film encourages us to be gentle with ourselves and gentle with each other.
Yeah.
I don't think, again, it's like not that deep of a movie, honestly. It covers a deep topic, but it's fun. It's a good watch. It's not depressing. It's not tragic like a lot of LGBTQ films are. We did it!
Thank you for listening or streaming, however you watched this. Next week, our schedule is going to be a little different. It will not be up on a Monday because we're going to be covering Euphoria's 2 special episodes that they are putting out. So the first one will be coming out Sunday, December 6th. So the episode, it will maybe be up that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, midweek next week. It's not going to be out on Monday because obviously we need to watch it, record it, edit it, and upload it. So
yeah. Okay. I hated that.
Stay safe, stay inside, and
wear a mask.
Be nice.
Wear a
and mind
mask.
your own business.
Mind your damn business. Yes. Peace and blessings. Lilas.
Lilas.